Welcome back to Cobra Vids, guys. In this video we have something kind of fun. We're going to be doing an inspection on the Jetta. There's two things that I need to inspect. I might break it up into two different videos so that you don't have to watch through one, to see the other, or the other to see the other, something like that. So what I'm going to do in this first video is we are going to do a control arm, bearing, otherwise a front and rear suspension check. Because one thing that you want to make sure is you want to make sure your bearings are solid, front and back. You want to make sure that your control arms are not worn out and moving around, because all that can throw the tires out of alignment, can create stability issues on the road. It can also create uneven wear on your tires, make you go through tires. It can also cut down fuel economy, and since you know who destroyed the economy, gas prices has shot way up. When I first moved to Arizona 4 years ago, gas was $2.09 a gallon. Woo, boy, that was so attractive, man. About as attractive as a woman, or I'm sorry, a person with beautiful. Sorry, I got distracted there. The wife just came out. Okay, well anyway, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get this car jacked up and put on 4 jack stands, because we're going to go around all the tires or all the wheels, tires, each side, each corner, each quarter, whatever terminology you can decide what you want to use. But anyway, I'm going to get it all jacked up on jack stands all the way around, so the entire car is up off the ground, the wheels are not touching. That way we can get in there and really tell if something is off. And then we're going to strip all the tires off, and then I'm going to do another inspection, a closer inspection of the suspension, and then we're going to probably wrap that video up, and I'll create another video, and then we're going to go in and do a brake inspection, a 4-wheel brake inspection, because you know what? This car's got 62,000 miles on it, and I've never changed the brakes. Okay? And if you don't drive fast, if you don't slam on your brakes at every stop sign and stoplight, your brakes are going to last. 62,000 miles on OEM stock brakes. Okay? Alright. Alright guys, so here we go, man. I hope you enjoy this. Alright, so first order of business is to get the little lug nut caps off. These are the most irritating thing about this car. It's because you just gotta kind of pop them out, and that's what they look like right there. So, and of course there's 20 of them on every tire, you know. Back when I was a teenager, cars only had 4 lug nuts. You know, the Mustangs, and they only had 4, which is kind of weird. This has a factory locking lug nut. I think they're stupid, but I mean, who would want to steal a stock Volkswagen rim? But before I put this one on a jack stand, I have to remove the tire. Once I lower the jack on the jack stand, the suspension is going to come down, and the tire is going to touch the ground, because I'm not going to jack it up high enough to bring the suspension up off the ground, if that makes sense. So right now I'm going to release the emergency brake. All right, right now the emergency brake's released, so the wheel's spinning freely. Right now I'm going to check the bearings on this tire. So the rear tires are a little different on a car. they don't turn this way at all with the steering. They're just straight rolling tires. I know, duh, right? But they still have a wheel bearing in there, and sometimes they will go bad. They have bushings in the suspension, and those can go bad as well. And when you get up to the 60,000 mile mark, like this car is, that's when things can start giving signs that they're going bad. And anytime that you notice something going bad while driving, it's too late, man. You're already doing damage to other parts. So it's very important to keep up on your car's maintenance, and maintenance being inspections. I know a lot of people just drive their car until they see or feel something. Well, that's too late. You need to fix it, because if a bearing on this side starts going out, it's going to put extra stress on the entire suspension, including the front end. And plus you're going to go through tires like crazy. So anyway, with a free spinning tire here, I'm going to check the bearings first, and then I'm going to remove the tire, get it on a jack stand, and get the other one off and do the same thing. Okay, so this rear tire here, if I grab it like this, front and back, and give it a wiggle, this will tell you everything about the bearings. You try it this way. If it's nice and solid, you try it this way, okay? Because if in a tire you get wobbling every direction that you try, then chances are it's a wheel bearing. It could be other things, but chances are it's a wheel bearing that's going out. So if you have a wobble of any type in all directions, then you need to get your bearings inspected and possibly replaced. Okay, this tire is very, very solid. I don't have any play in it, but I can't check the suspension, the bushings, until it's hanging freely. So I got to get this tire off, put a jack stand under it, and get the other side up as well. Real quick, here is the factory locking lug nut tool. These are found in your trunk under the flap where the spare tire is or is supposed to be, and it's sitting in a styrofoam holder. Well, that's of course 2017 Jetta. So I'm going to get something to attach to there, and then whoop, I got to get my air compressor going so I don't have to do those with a lug wrench. See that? That's the truth, man. But anyway, this will go in the brake inspection video, but if you can spin your wheel like that and it slowly slows down, then your brakes aren't dragging. If you spin your wheel like that and it immediately slows down, you know, it quickly slows down, then your brakes are dragging and you could have a sticky caliper. But anyway, I'll add that in my brake inspection video, which I'm going to do next. All right, enough coffee. Compressor's pumped up. We're ready to rock. Always check direction of your impact before applying it to your lug nut. There you go. And by the way, the lug nuts on the 2017 Jetta are a 17 millimeter. Oh, damn. Sound painful, didn't it? Sound like me trying to get up out of bed in the morning. Okay, pull this off here. Okay, guys, let's take a look at this. Let me get this zoomed in here so that you guys see it. There we go. All right. So part of doing a suspension inspection is to inspect your tires. Okay. Your tires can tell you a million things about your suspension. Well, maybe 20 things. And sometimes when you have a bad wheel bearing, the inside, this is the inside of the tire, this can wear unevenly, and it looks like I got a little uneven wear, but just as you saw just a second ago, the bearings are fine, so it's not that. What I think is the issue, it's definitely wearing on the inside much more than the outer. At one time I was told by a tire guy that these tires need replaced. The front end may need an alignment. It may be going down the road kind of sideways. That might contribute. But in the rear tire, normally wear like this, there's something wrong with the suspension. But so far I haven't seen anything that would indicate that. The wear bars are all pretty much even all the way across. And I don't see any weird balls, or I don't see any balls on my car, so it must be a female. But I don't see anything that would indicate the tire is separating, which would be another reason why there would be an uneven wear spot. But I do get a little weird vibration, and it could be that this tire is starting to come apart. I may or may not replace them, because what the hell, they're on the rear, right? Yeah. And what you could do is, while staring down across the top, you could roll it, and that will show you any imperfections in the tire, and that would also help determine if there's anything wrong with the tire itself. If the other side is bald like this, then I would say that it's probably just getting to the point where these tires need replaced. But I am concerned that this side is wearing much faster than that side there. So, because you can see how there's much more tread here, and it's almost gone over here. So that is concerning. But let's move forward and see what the other side looks like. Okay guys, here we go. Here's the other side. This is the passenger side. I just brought it over here. I'm looking through the camera, and I can't really make it out on camera. Maybe once it's on a big screen you'll be able to see it. But this is the inside of the other side, okay? And every other tread is flared up on the inside. I don't feel it on the outside, okay? These are original tires. These have 62,000 miles on them, okay? They're starting to get a little cracked, weathered, but seeing how these are flared up, that's a good sign of a bouncing tire. And I noticed that that this tread line here, let's see if I can get that on camera. Right, maybe. Okay, well, you can take my word that this tread line here dips down. That is a sign of a tire that is having some problems. We may have to replace these tires before going on any long trips. So, but for right now, we'll go ahead and leave them. And this bouncing might be from the tire starting to separate and it's out of balance. So that might be why the cupping is there, and why these tread lines are kind of wavy, and it's because this tire is separating. And if the passenger side tire is bouncing, then it could affect the driver's side tire as well. But as you can see, the tread lines are not as worn on the inside of this one. So I don't know exactly why, but you can tell like here, these little lines are gone. Every other one, the lines are like gone. Okay, so there's definitely something wrong with this tire. I never buy tires one at a time. So if I replace one, I'm going to replace both of them, especially because the other one's wearing on the inside. I might just go ahead and do it so that we have new tires all the way around. The front tires, which you'll see in a little bit, they're pretty much new. I think I'll go ahead and rotate these tires. Let's back this out some. When you're inspecting a suspension, you really want to look at everything. You want to look at the shock and see, since there's no weight on this tire, the axle is hanging way down. Okay, well, it's not an axle, but control arm. The control arm is hanging way down, and I always give the shocks a shake, because if the shock was starting to go bad, you'll get some vibration or some movement in there. Okay, and there's absolutely no movement in there. When you're looking at shocks, you also want to look at the bushing here. There's a rubber bushing in here, and the bolt goes through it and holds it onto the suspension. This rubber boot can start going bad and start creating some vibration in the shock and create some bounce in your suspension, which could cause a feathering tire like we have on the other side. We'll go check out the other side in just a little bit and see if anything's wrong there. Let me turn on some light here, okay, so that we can really see down in there. Let me see if I can get, let's zoom in a little bit. All right. Here's the sway bar. I don't know if they call them, stabilizer bars now, but it used to be called a sway bar. Excuse my ancient terminology. But there's a bushing in here that needs to be inspected, and I can see right now, well, let me get the view back there. I can see right now that the bushing looks intact. There's no cracking or peeling or anything that would indicate that the sway bar bushing is bad. We have a control arm bushing right down in here, and I know it's kind of hard to see on camera, but this bushing here looks intact as well. There isn't any obvious signs of needing, whoops, sorry guys, there isn't any obvious signs of needing replacement. It all looks really good. There's different areas. Right here is what I call dog bones, and this is what links the sway bar or stabilizer bar to the control arms. They have them up front as well, and we'll have to inspect those too. But if this was a serviceable, if it had a zert here, a grease zert, I would grease it while I'm inspecting, but it's a non-serviceable part, and they want you to buy a brand new one. Down here, there's not really a ball joint, because up here, there's actually a ball joint. Kind of like a ball joint on the front suspension. But here, it is just a bushing. Once you undo the top here, then you probably just pry this off, and it probably pops off. That's what I would imagine, because, oh no, there is a bolt there. There is a bolt, so scratch that. There is a bolt on the other side. As you could probably guess, this is the first time that I have really evaluated the suspension on my wife's car, so bear with me here. I'm learning right along next to you guys. Okay. Alright, so every joint every joint, like this one here, this is another control arm. Every joint has a bushing. Every time you see a bolt like that, your chances are there's a bushing in there, and you got to inspect it. You got to make sure that there's no cracking or anything. And you can get a pry bar and you can stick in here and pry up and down and see if there's any play. We will do that before we put the tires back on. Right there is another bushing that is on the bottom of the hub, because that is the hub where the brake rotor sits. That's the hub. So there's one at the very bottom there, and from inspecting it visually, there's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't look like it's too worn out. Now, when I say that it's okay, I'm not saying there's no wear at all, but it's very minimal wear and tear. And at the front, we have another one up there, and I'll have to get up underneath the car to really take a look at that one. All right, guys, this pipe here, or this suspension bushing checker tool, this is a very valuable tool to have. Every mechanic should have one of these. Some call it a cheater bar, some call it a pry bar. I call it a very expensive suspension checker for this job here. And this is what I'll stick into the control arms and move up and down to check for any type of movement. And this will really tell me that noise you might hear is not looseness, it's this bar hitting the spring here. So when I pry in there, I don't see any movement at all. Let's see if I can get it into the sway bar. Everything looks good there. Looks great there. Okay. And then we'll put this in the bottom one and try to. We'll give a good look at the bottom one. All right, so the bushings on this side look spectacular. I don't see anything wrong with this side here. I'm going to repeat the process with the other side, and then we'll move to the front tires. Woohoo! Okay guys, one more thing before we move to the front. When you're in here doing your suspension inspection, you really got to check the brake lines. This is a anti-lock brake sensor wire. This is the brake line, the brake fluid line here. And you got to just inspect everything that you can see for anything that doesn't look right. Even the muffler hanger here. If that was cracked or broken, you would want to replace that immediately. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the rear suspension inspection. I got the other side inspected and it looks identical. I don't have a problem in the rear. So let's go check the front end. In case you're wondering, this is an old Stanley screwdriver that I heated and I bent in order to work on a transmission. I needed to do something, I don't recall what it was exactly, but I needed this for a transmission, so I just bent it. But I find it that it's a really nice little pick in order to pop these caps off. Before removing all of the lug nuts, we're going to test the front suspension and see if there's any play. And we always start with the bearings, and right here there is movement, but that's natural movement in the rack and pinion. the steering mechanism, and we always do a quick short wiggle up and down too. That's why it must be supported well, because once you stick your hand under there, you don't want this car to fall on you. But I see no bearing. There's no bearing issues with this side here, and once you start doing the harder, longer wobbles, that's when you can tell if there's something wrong with the tie rods, because you'll feel a click whenever you move it. Now that natural play that you have there, that if we were to look at the steering wheel is moving a little bit, and that's actually natural. As long as you don't feel any serious clanking, then the tie rods are in great shape. So we're going to finish removing the tire now and get into checking the suspension. If we look at this front tire here, we see the tread is wearing evenly. There's no flaring. There's no wavy treads. This tread here is actually looking great. This has got probably 10,000 miles on the tire, and within 10,000 miles, we would definitely see uneven wear if there was something wrong with the tire, like worn bushings or bearings, or even needing an alignment. Because if your car needs an alignment, if the wheels are pointed to the right, you're going to have outer tread wear. If the wheels are too far to the left, you're going to have inner on the driver's side anyway. And it's opposite for the passenger side. I hope that makes sense, because I just kind of confused myself a little bit there. But and if you ever notice that there is wear, excessive wear on the outer, both sides of your tire, then you're running your tire flat, because that means this area is pushing inward and you're riding on the outside of your tire. If you have excessive wear in the middle of the treads here, then you're running your car with too much tire pressure, okay? And here's my opinion. Somebody's probably going to comment and say that I'm wrong, okay? But this tire here, its maximum tire pressure is 44 pounds, okay? Whenever I have tires put on, they always put my tires between 32 and 35 pounds of pressure. Well, I don't like that, okay? If a tire says 44 pounds, I go 40. That's just me, okay? And I always get extreme life out of my tires, okay? So you can leave it at what the tire shops put in there. They usually do about 35, but I like to put mine at 40 if it says 44 pounds maximum. So I'm kind of right there in the middle of what the tire shop does and what the maximum is, so. And also, these are factory grade tires. This is, when I replace the front tires, this is exactly what the factory would put on this car. I'm a very OEM guy. Alrighty guys, so we're kind of going to do the same thing. Hold on, let me get some light on the subject. There we go. We're going to do the same thing. This is also a good time to see if your engine is leaking, because you'll start to see a little seepage everywhere down in the transmission area and stuff. Of course, this car has no leaks. I've been on top of that, man. I inspect this car every time I change the oil. So, all right. So here is the stabilizer sway bar for the front, and there is the bushing there. And as you can see clearly that is a good bushing. Okay, once the bushings start to go, then you start to have all kinds of weird stuff going on. And since we're at the back side, that's when we look at the boot for the axle. Okay, and I like to stick my fingers in the middle of these bellows just to check for cracks. Of course, if this was cracked, it would be flinging grease everywhere, and you would have grease flung all over your tranny and down on the control arm mounts and everything. So I'm pretty confident that boot is just fine. And also, you'll have it on the front or on the outer one too. And as you can clearly see, there is no grease flung anywhere because these are packed with bearing grease. So you would definitely be able to tell if this was leaking. And of course, this is the tie rod. This is one of the things that could go bad when you're wobbling your tire side to side. This is usually the one that goes bad. But back at the end of this tie rod here, there's an inner one too that connects to the inner workings of the rack and pinion. This bellows here is also very important to make sure that it is intact. If you ever had a cracked bellows and you were having fluid leaking out of here, then your rack and pinion seals are shot, because there should be no liquid in here. This is just a dust cover, okay? Liquid does not go through there. Air will go through there, but fluid does not. This is a dry area under here. Okay, so we continue on, and we will inspect this bushing, this one over here, and of course the ball joint, that in here, right here, is the ball joint. Okay, that is what commonly goes bad in cars, and it all starts with a bad boot, because once the boot splits, grease comes out of there and that ball joint dries out, and it's over with. That thing will wear out in 5,000 miles easy, and then your tire will be wobbling all over the place. And that's when you can get inner tire tread wear. The inside will just wear because the tire kind of tilts inward up top, and you're basically riding on the inside of your tire right there. And these are neat. They're easy to replace because you got 3 bolts down, or 3 nuts down here on these studs, and then you got 1 bolt up, or 1 nut up top, and these ball joints are easy to replace. One thing I like about the Jetta is it's easy to work on. Okay, so what we do is we continue to inspect all the lines, make sure nothing's been pinched or damaged by rocks or whatever might happen. We always want to look down in every nook and cranny, every crevice. We will get to the brakes in our next video, so keep watching. All right, so that's going to do it for this side. We've really done a great inspection. I still got to look closely at these bushings here, and then we'll be ready to move on to the other side and then wrap up this video. Alright, so here's the passenger side tire, and again, I don't see anything that points to any problems with the tire. The tire tread is very even. Alright, so once we inspect this, we can tell that all the wear bars are equal. The tread looks like it's wearing very evenly. Of course, this tire's only got 10,000 miles on it, maybe 15, so we're doing really good here. This is a good sign that this side is in great shape. And The inside of the rim is nice and dry, because if you were to see this wet, then your caliper is probably leaking. Also, your drive axle, your half shafts, or CV joints, whatever terminology you use, it could be flinging grease on the inside here, and that's when you know that you've got problems. When you have a nice dry, I know it's dirty, but if you got a nice dry inside of your rim, that is a great sign, guys. Okay, so I'll go ahead and finish inspecting this, and then we'll talk about what we found and wrap up this video for today. All right, guys, so we've fully inspected all 4 wheels or sides, and we have determined that the only issue that I see is the rear tires. And there's nothing wrong with any of the bushings or bearings or anything in the rear. So I'm going to say that the rear tires need replaced, just because they got 62,000 miles on them. So, and that one is kind of acting like it's kind of bouncing, imbalance kind of thing. So those will have to be replaced very soon. But for the rest of the suspension, everything looks great. The bushings are all intact. They're not cracked or missing pieces or anything. The control arms are all tight. There's no movement when I pry on them. So everything looks really good, which I'm very impressed. See, a lot of people put Volkswagens down, but I've had great success with Volkswagen. I had one that lasted 247,000 miles. That was impressive, and I got it used. So, but this one here I've had since it came off the showroom, and I've been taking really good care of it. In future videos, you'll see me doing work on it, because at some point something's going to go bad, and I'm going to have to fix it. I do have a lifetime engine and drivetrain warranty, so if they have to disassemble the engine or transmission for any work, it's covered for life, unlimited mileage. I had to pay for that, of course, but I think it was worth it, because we're planning on keeping this car. It's all paid off. We don't owe anything on this car anymore, so that's great. To pay off a car before 100,000 miles, that's pretty damn good, in my book. So, all right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap it up for the suspension inspection for the 2017 Jetta. Please stay tuned, because we got a lot more. We're going to do a brake inspection next. That will be on a separate video, so look for that to post. Until next time, guys, subscribe, like, ring that bell, because what the hell, right? All right, guys, stay safe, stay free. We'll catch you on the next one. The video you just watched, I recorded that 4 or 5 days ago, and since then I went on a round trip 2,600 miles. Okay, and you'll recall how I showed you the that cupping on that one tire. Well, about halfway through the trip, I started hearing something weird coming from the back tires. Well, here's what I found when I got out. You ready? Here's what I found on the road. And keep in mind, when this thing is on the ground with the weight of the car, these are much more defined. Let's see if we can see them like this. See how every one of them is flared? This was creating like a scraping sound going down the road, and it was getting really bad. I hope the severity comes across the camera, but you see how much tread is on these? This is the disappointing part. There is so much tread left on these tires that it is a bummer that I'm going to have to replace, because these are like $200 a tire, and it sucks. But that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to go down and see if I can get a good deal on them.
because we also have to replace these front ones up here. Whoops. We have to replace the front ones on my truck. These are shot, these wobble all over the place. This one keeps losing air, probably valve stem. So if I do have new tires put on this one, I'm going to make sure that the valve stems are changed too, because that's probably why this one's leaking down. But the condition of this one, I wouldn't doubt it if there's cracks in it or a hole in it somewhere. But it's time to get new tires. I'm going to be putting out a video really soon telling you all about a huge change going on in my life, and I'm going to actually create a brand new YouTube channel, and I hope you all subscribe. But I'm going to release a video about that on this channel here and give you guys the new YouTube channel's name so that you can join me on that and join my adventures. But alright guys, this was a little bonus clip of what I found after I went on my long trip, and it was scary because you could feel it bouncing, you could hear it scraping, and it was just a matter of time. If I had, oh well, I could even feel it in this tread. So it was getting worse. This tire could have blown out on us. It was in the rear, so I went ahead and kept going. When I noticed it, it was like 11 o'clock at night, so there would have been nobody open to get this replaced on the road. But anyway, this is probably a sign of what's going on. But I'll get to what all that's about later. All right, guys, thanks for watching again. See you later.